Welcome everyone tonight to the York City Council meeting of Thursday, April 15th, 2021. It is 7 o'clock. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the east wall of the council chambers. If you would, please stand with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gene, the roll call.
Here. Lomas. Yes. Finish.
Here.
Hoffman. Wagner.
Here.
Norris.
Here.
Wilkinson.
Here.
Hubbard.
Yes.
The next item would be the minutes of the April 1st, 2021 meeting. You were all given those minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to those?
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Gene?
Piper.
Yes.
Lomas. Yes. Finish.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Our next item is the department activities report. Any questions about that?
Move for approval. Second.
A motion and a second. Any further questions? Gene?
Piper.
Yes.
Lomas. Yes. Finish.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
And you all received the cash balances for the month of March 2021. Are there any comments on that report?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Gene?
Piper.
Yes.
Lomas. Yes. Finish.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
We have a claim of an elected official.
Yes, we have one claim for an elected official, a claim for Tony North of North Printing and Office Supply in the amount of $3,949.73. I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Gene?
Piper.
Yes.
Lomas.
Yes.
Finish.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Norris.
Abstain.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
And now the claims for the period of April 2nd through April 15th, 2021.
The Finance Committee met yesterday, and I move for approval for the claims for the period of April 2nd through April 15th, 2021.
Second. Thank you. Are there any further questions of the Finance Committee? Hearing none. Gene?
Piper.
Yes.
Lomas.
Yes.
Finish.
Yes.
Hoffman. Wagner.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Our next agenda item is City Administrator report. Joe?
This weekend, there is a hazardous waste collection out at the city's landfill. It is actually going to be coordinated by Four Corners, who have subcontracted with Red Willow to actually collect the items. In the paper, and there's a misnomer about what can be taken out there and the quantities. In the paper, it says no more than 5 gallons will be accepted. That's 5 gallons of each item that is acceptable. So whether it be antifreeze, or gasoline, or oil, something of this nature, so you can take up to 5 gallons. When I talked with Four Corners, they were going to try to also clarify that in the paper. So that's that. The following week, and I've got in front of you too, on April 24th, the city is having their free cleanup day for York residents. And at that point too, we will be open from 9 to 3. You take your debris and tree limbs and other acceptable items out to the landfill itself. I want to emphasize the fact that we will not be going around town picking it up at any time or having dumpsters around town. So if they can take it out to the landfill, we'll accept it for free at that. And then on April 8th, we actually took bids, open bids for the snow removal equipment out at the airport. We had one bidder, and then we ran into problems with made in the Buy American type waiver on some of these items. And it wasn't just us, there's other communities that have to go through the same process. They're having to call in read some of these criteria in that. So we're gonna go back for rebidding that process. And we hope to advertise Monday, April 19th, and open bids again May 10th. Now that's not definite just yet. We'll try to confirm that tomorrow. But that is our goal right at this point, and then it'll come back to you. Again, initially it was a 90-10% city payment, and through, again, this whatever they call that, reinvested, or whatever, the federal government was gonna pick up the other 10%. So even though they think like on this tractor, if they go to the next model bigger, they can meet more of the criteria being made in America. It's gonna cost more, but again, it's federal money, so
90% federal, 10%.
yes. But again, they were gonna come back and gonna pick up our 10%. So,
They're paying the whole bill on this one, so you have to pay everybody else's bills, right?
Good deal.
we hope that it is.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's all I have.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. Our next agenda item is to approve the 2020 water and wastewater rate study as prepared by GO Consulting Group, Dean Simonson. Yes, please. Dan, if you would come and, just for the record, state your name and address for the record and the microphone is yours.
My name is Dane Simonson with JEO Consulting out of Lincoln, Nebraska. All right, well, I was told that there should be a 2-page handout that everybody has. Excellent. All right, well, I must say you guys are making great time this evening, so I'm going to try and continue that trend and go through this relatively quickly. Feel free to interrupt with questions or any inquiries like that. So what you're looking at is the council summary for the 2020 water and wastewater rate study, which we completed here this last year, and we looked at your water system and your wastewater system, specifically looking at the health of finances and what the rate should be going forward. On page 1, you're going to see, we're going to start with the water department. The rate study itself, basically, it looks at projecting your population, your flows, inflation, O&M costs, capital improvements, and any bond payments you may have or foresee getting in the next 5 years. Our study period's 5 years, so we project these things out. Basically look at how are you going to pay your bills over that period of time. What rates do you need to have to generate the revenues you're going to need. On the water side of things, we have your existing rate schedule shown here. And for the most part, the goals that we laid out in the study, your existing structure meet all of those goals. So we did not have any recommendations for changes to the water rates. And the paragraph at the bottom of the page gives you a little bit of detail about what your system's going to be doing. We're not recommending an increase to the rates, but your cash situation is pretty favorable right now, but it's setting you up to be able to pay off one of your loans earlier. I believe in 2016, you'll be able to pay off an existing SRF loan. So when you pay that off in cash, that bond payment will fall off the system. You will not have had to have raised rates to be able to do this, and it'll free up either some bonding capacity or just basically create some space for you to generate some revenue on a yearly basis and do projects in cash if you so choose. So that's a very good sign. This is a very healthy system. Being on a cash basis for paying for things, being able to pay off some of your debt sooner is always positive. So that's pretty much the water system. Okay. The second and third page is the wastewater system. In this case, what you're going to see on this first page, you have your existing rate schedule at the top of the page, and the bottom of the page is showing what our recommended rate schedule is going to be through the study period. Now, one point of a note here is from 2020, we started the study in 2020 fiscal year. You have since increased rates on the wastewater side from 2020 to 2021. That was kind of part of the plan. So from there on is really where our recommendations begin. So from 21 to 2022 and every year there to the end of the rate schedule, we're looking at a 2.5% adjustment, which from what I understand, the previous study, I think it was at 4 or a little higher than that. So this is less than what was projected previously. That's good news there. And if you want to go to the last page, this is where it really shows what the actual impacts of those adjustments are. Through all the previous pages of this, I've been showing your rates as they are in the ordinance, which is bi-monthly. So your rate amounts is the cost for 2 months. I've changed that to monthly in this table, and that way these numbers would be comparable to neighboring communities and things like that. Not everybody has a bi-monthly schedule. So the top of the page or rather the top half of this table is going to show you a list of hypothetical users in your various user classes with different flows, and you can see what their actual monthly cost for wastewater service is going to be going forward through the proposed rate schedule year to year. And the real fun part is on the bottom half of the table. This is actually a difference in the bill, the monthly bill on a year-to-year basis. So once we get out into, those 2.5% increases, you can generally say your average residential user is going to see about a 65 cents per month increase in their bill, which is pretty manageable. So that, we did have a few other rate schedules in there just for comparison. This is the one we recommended. And so I'd open it up for questions.
I want to point out too that this past year, in this current budget, we did not have a rate increase in water. And I think we had a 9.5% rate increase in the wastewater.
Which
All this,
was actually less than what was anticipated from the previous study. I think you were supposed to do a 12. You took a guess at 9.5, and then we projected from there for the rest.
and part of the water rate study is we wanted to give the users a break. And this only kind of reassures what we were thinking, and I think we were correct in making that assumption that we didn't need that rate increase, and that's good.
Well, the more we've had, the more aggressive, 9.5 for some more aggressive rates have got us where we needed to be, so now they can be a lot less painful on the wastewater side.
Yeah.
65, just those smaller increases, but took a few painful, a few higher percentages, it adds up to a few dollars, but it took a little bit to get to where we're going, but we're kind of leveling off, so that's good.
Yeah, with the bond payments you're going to have coming into the system that you have to pay for, the steep part of the hill is behind you, and now it's just kind of some fine tuning to get your revenue after you make those payments to the right amount.
Great. Council, more questions? Okay, you were very efficient with your time. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. We would need a motion to approve this water rate study.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Jean?
Piper.
Yes.
Muller.
Yes.
Benish.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Our next agenda item is to approve group insurance carrier for the fiscal year of May 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2022. Ben, if you would come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, even though you're frequently here.
Very good, thank you. Ben Roy with Cornerstone Insurance Group, and we represent the city's health insurance carrier.
I know that you've had a chance to meet with a couple different groups in the insurance group today, but maybe for the people that weren't there, you could just give us just a real brief summary of kind of where we stand right now.
Sure. We had two different options with RCI. RCI is the third-party administrator, and they provided two reinsurance offers. One was a renewal, and its increase was about, on the max cost was roughly 11%, and we got a competitive quote from another carrier, American National, which was just under 1%, and then we also were able to get a quote through a fully insured group, which is actually a decrease in rates, but in reviewing it, there's still a chance of what the city has averaged in the past. I think we can still beat that fully insured rate and be less disruptive to all the employees within the city. So those were the three options we presented, and I feel pretty good. When we started out looking at rates, approximately a month and a half ago, they were considerably higher, but through some negotiations, we were able to get that whittled down pretty good. So.
Well, less than 1% is, that's terrific.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that's terrific. With that, we would, if the and I'd let the insurance, committee comment on what you guys thought before we go any further.
Well, yeah, it was, I want to thank Ben and Todd both, because what we were looking at initially was a little scary. And they were able to find some errors that Todd found there, and then go through negotiations got us to a really favorable position. So, thank you very much. And you got to tell Todd thank you too.
We've been with this same company, the Reassure, but we've been with the same.
Third-party administrator since 2014.
Right.
Regional care out of Scottsbluff, Nebraska.
So going with this would not make any of our employees change any of their insurance, any of their cards, any of the things that they're used to doing, and basically it's the same rate, that we had last year. So I think that's great. So, any other questions of Ben when he's there, or questions of the insurance committee? Well, I feel really good about it. So thank you very much, Ben. So they need to get to work, because we only have a couple weeks to kind of get this done. So I will look for a motion for approval of this group insurance carrier. A motion?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Jean?
Piper.
Yes.
Jonas.
Yes.
Van Ness.
Yes.
Hoffman. Wagner.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
The next item is to approve a resolution recognizing May 9th to May 15th, 2021 as National Economic Development Week. We did get a resolution that is there, and I won't read the whole thing, but basically our support and the City of York support for the resolution for Economic Development Week and all the work that they do, and for the economic development group that we have and that other cities have across the country. But we do want to thank our economic development group for all the work they do every year, and being a partner with the city. So we signed that resolution that we'll get back to them, and I would look for an approval for that resolution.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Jean?
I'm sorry, who's second? Sorry. Piper.
Yes.
Jonas.
Yes.
Van Ness.
Yes.
Hoffman. Wagner.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
The next two items are, we're amending some language and rules of our zoning ordinance that kind of came from when we started working on the signs ordinances with them, and some other items that came out. So Charlie, I'm going to turn these over to you to kind of summarize these for us and answer any questions.
Okay, Barry, as you said, last year, we started working on amending our sign ordinances. We also approved group home and worked through the group home and group care facility ordinances as well. And as part of that, it became apparent that some of the definitions we used were outdated and really weren't workable and needed to be changed. So the primary one was we defined residential housing according to single-family, two-family, and multi-family dwellings. Problem we had is we didn't define what a family was in our zoning definition, and it's really unclear what a family is today. So rather than use word family, we have changed that to mean household. We do that in ordinance 2283. A number of our ordinances still refer to family, so what we say is whenever the word family is used in our zoning code, it shall be deemed to mean household. And then in the other ordinance, 2284, we define a household as one or more persons that functions as a single housekeeping unit, and that occupies a dwelling unit in compliance with occupancy limitations set out in the International Property Maintenance Code. So we limit the number of persons according to the square footage of the property, which is provided for by the Property Maintenance Code. And it eliminates the gap we had in our ordinances that simply define family. Now we define households, which is a broader definition than simply a family. So that is the primary change we're making. And then if you look at 2284, instead of referring to single-family dwellings, now we refer to single-unit dwellings, two-unit dwellings, multiple-unit dwellings, etc. We also made a couple of other clarifications in definitions for hotel, motel, townhouses, where the language really wasn't clear. But the primary change is to change definition of family to a household.
This went through the planning commission.
Went through the ordinance committee and then the planning commission.
And we have some other things through the zoning that we're going to continuing to work on as we go forward too.
I think this cleans it up and makes it much more clear.
If you're so wish, we would need to, first of all, on the first ordinance 2283, we would need to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to suspend the rules on ordinance 2283. Jean?
Piper.
Yes.
Jonas.
Yes.
Van Ash.
Yes.
Hoffman. Wagner.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
And now we would need to have a motion to pass ordinance 2283.
Move it for the passage of ordinance 2283.
Second.
Motion and a second. Jean?
Piper.
Yes.
Jonas.
Yes.
Van Ash.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
And now the next agenda item would be to again suspend the rules on 2284.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on ordinance 2284.
Second.
Thank you. Jean?
Piper.
Yes.
Jonas.
Yes.
Van Ash.
Yes.
Hoffman. Wagner.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
And now passage of ordinance 2284.
Move for passage of ordinance 2284.
Second.
Any further questions? Seeing none, Jean?
Piper.
Yes.
Jonas.
Yes.
Van Ash.
Yes.
Hoffman. Wagner.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
The next agenda item is a change order with Wyatt Enterprises LLC. We have new contract cost of $1,077,627.30 for concrete preservation. This would basically be what was going on last year. Some of this is already completed. This would be last year's, what we put in the budget, and then this year's, 2 years ago, and then this current year's budget of what we put in for doing work on our streets. Joe, I'll let you kind of deal or comment on this, please.
In last year's budget, in the 1920 budget, we had $600,000 total for street repair, panel replacement. In this current fiscal year, we also have $870,000 total for street repair and replacement. Part of this is being paid for through 357 money, County 357 money. The increase that we're going to be doing is still at a per unit price, so it is an extension of the contract of last year. And so we're going to be adding $543,777.30 to this contract that we initially signed with Wyatt. So it is that. Last year, Wyatt got started late in the season. We only were able to pay them, I think, a little over $20,688. So they've got to get aggressive and get a lot of things done. Initially, this was all going to be concrete, and we're still anticipating concrete. With the addition and the road work being done on Highway 34 from basically York onto the west, that'll probably be an asphalt overlay. So at that point, we didn't anticipate that there would be an asphalt plant locally or within a reasonable distance to haul it in on. This may change that whole scenario. And we still obviously have more money in the budget that we can still do something of this nature. What we're adding to pretty much is, along with Delaware Division and 14th Street to this project, which is kind of a lot of this change order that's coming in through here,
So the next agenda item with Benish is them doing the consulting and engineering for doing this work.
That is correct.
But the comments that they made, that Benish made was that, working with Wyatt and getting the same unit price that they did a year ago, if we went out to bids, we aren't going to get that. And as small as this is, you probably don't get a lot of bidders. So So they think it's very beneficial to the city that we go this direction, and then they would be the engineering and kind of staying on them and helping us kind of bird dog a little bit to get some of this work done.
I would assume that the asphalt, if that's used, is less expensive than the concrete option, or is it better?
In the long run, there's not much difference. It's probably shorter, on the short term, asphalt's a little bit cheaper, but it's the prep on getting it and then having to go back in and periodically re-oil and things of this nature.
Yeah.
Long-term, concrete's still a better deal.
Yeah, the first check you write, that's all cheaper, but then you gotta keep doing it.
Right.
So, and related to this is that, I did have a nice conversation too with them, and they are going to be identifying where we stand on some other projects to bring back to you some options, budget time, on what we might look at doing next year, what they think might be good courses of action. So by the time we get into budget and talk about it, meaning if we were going to, say, do a bigger project that might have some economies of scale, some other bidders that maybe we would bond over a short period of time. So we'll be able to, I said we want some clear comparisons. If we do this, this is what we've got, and if we do this, and if we do this. And that'll give us a little time to think about it, and time for you guys to go out and look around, and really, make a decision. I know the county just did, another bond issue to do work, and they've done that the last few years, and gotten a lot of work done at once, and then kind of pay it off over a few years, and then get an new list built up and go after that. And it seems to work well for them in their rotation the last while. So we would, we'll still think of that even looking at this. But other questions? So first of all, we would just need to approve this change order, which has all been budgeted, but just to kind of have Wyatt do this, and then the second item would be to approve the agreement change order for Venice. So
I think we're getting a good deal here, and honoring their unit price, because some of the contracts done good since they've been there. So I move for approval.
Second.
have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Jean?
Piper.
Yes.
Jonas.
Yes.
Benish.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Sheila.
And then the next item, as I mentioned, would be the consulting services with Benish and a service agreement change order, and a motion to that effect.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions on that? Hearing none, Jean?
Piper.
Yes.
Jonas.
Yes.
Benish.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
The last agenda item is to approve the purchase of a Cat Model 120 motor grader in the sum of $188,875. Joe?
First off, I want to apologize to the asset committee because I didn't take this to you guys because due to the essence of time and everything else in this. The subcommittee was kind of made up of Alan Snyder and Caleb Dietrich. Caleb is our mechanic. They brought in the demo equipment, both from John Deere and from CAT, and have gone through it, made their recommendations. It's kind of old school, new school. The new school, new thinking is have the joystick. And I guess part of it's because I guess new kids growing up with video games and you have that. Old school, you still have your steering wheels and your levers and everything else on the maintainer. The reason we're not going with a bigger unit than what this is, and if we would go to like a used unit, we would probably get an old industrial grader, or we would use something from a county. And generally, that type of equipment, from what these guys tell me, is that it's bigger, more bulky, heavier, and in order to get it into our streets and our alleys, we need something a little more smaller. Not substantially smaller, but again, that's what it is. New versus used, obviously, we're having a hard time finding used equipment, good used equipment. The last one that we bought was in Go back to my report here. We're trading in a 1991 Cat that shows 10,486 hours, and we purchased this in 1994. So if we keep this new one for 20-some years, it's gonna pay for itself, and we know what we've got. In addition to that, Cat is also coming back in and giving us free filters. That way, they know that we're gonna continue to do oil changes and things of this nature, so that they're warranty with their equipment. Overall, we got 2 bids from Murphy Equipment. That was the John Deere, and then we got the Cat equipment. Obviously, John Deere is still somewhat of a ag company, trying to get the industrial side. Cat's always been in the industrial side. So, our recommendation then from staff and Helen Schneider and Caleb and myself would be to go for the joystick. Better technology, newer technology going into it. Granted, it's $17,800 difference, but they think that it'd be well worth it at the time frame. And as new generation comes along, most of our operators, we're old.
The Cat bid was lower than the John Deere
Yes.
bid.
Yes. The trade-in for the John Deere, they were giving us $34,000. So the net on the John Deere was either $332,780 or $207,100, depending upon the joystick and everything. Whereas the 2 bids on the Cat with the trading value was $42,825. Plus, that was the one for the joystick and also on the other one too. The net cost then for the joystick is $188,875 versus the steering wheel lever of $171,075. So again, that's that $17,800 difference. The operators demoed them. That's what they recommend.
Well, it seems like we should, buy a good one if if we last 25 years. That seems like a pretty good life on this. And I don't know, buying somebody's used one, I know we talked about that at budget time, but what did we budget for this purchase?
We budgeted $50,000 this year, and knowing that it was gonna cost more than that we would either have to reassess what we're gonna put in every year. I talked with the salesman from Cat, and whether we buy it over a 5-year period or 2-year period, that price isn't really gonna change. It's gonna be the same. We're not gonna get it immediately. It's still gonna be 2 or 3 months probably down the road as it is. And at that point, we're gonna be real close to another. So we spend this $50,000 in this year, and then whatever we put in the budget for next year, we turn around and get it. So with the trade-in plus the $50,000, we're not that far off anyhow, so. Caleb is out here if you need to ask him questions of his recommendation, or you're more than welcome to speak if you want to, if you get any questions.
Caleb, come up. Introduce yourself to everybody to start with, will you?
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, everybody. I'm Caleb Hedrick. I'm the city's mechanic.
Since
November of last year.
All right.
So, I worked for CAT for 10 years before here. Worked for Komatsu as well. So I do have some experience with this equipment. My recommendation, like Joe's, is CAT. My experience with John Deere equipment, they have a lot of transmission issues and engine issues. CAT really didn't see many of them. So, plus with warranty, for a 5-year. For CAT, that's where we're at. So. That's all I have to say, I guess.
That's all right. Any questions before we let him get away?
How'd you like driving it?
What's that?
How did you like driving it?
cat versus a deer.
Yeah.
Well, cat, I'm kind of biased because that's what I started with, but deer, their control seems really slow, not as responsive. So if you're doing real fine grade work, to me, that's what you want is responsiveness. So, and I didn't see that in John Deere.
What do we all use this for?
Snow removal in the wintertime, and then Ken usually uses it for our gravel streets to maintain them and any other dirt work we have to do. So that's what it's used for.
And this one's gonna be a little bit small, but not much.
It should be about the same size as what we have now. It's just gonna be newer and
A little more sleeker.
yeah. So a lot more, it should have more power too than what the old one is. So.
We're not gonna get surprises where they say, well, we should have ordered this and now we need
We
$20,000.
shouldn't, no. So, because I actually had them add some other things in there that I think was necessary. Because I went through the bid sheet, or their spec sheet, and I had them add some other things that I think we needed, so. But. All right.
All right, thank you for coming.
Yep.
I move for the approval of the purchase of the cat 120 motor grader.
Motion and a second. Further comments? Gene?
Piper,
Yes.
Jonas,
Yes.
Benish,
Yes.
Hoffman, Wagner,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Hubbard.
That takes us to the end of our agenda, but before we adjourn, this is actually Joe Fry's last official meeting as city administrator. I want to thank him for everything he's done for the city of York, and it's been good to have him here. He's not leaving next week. Next Friday will be his official last day, but he's going to stay in touch with us. We've got a lot of projects going on that he'll be still working with us as we need him and have his phone ready and be here if we need to do that. But big thank you for Joe and appreciate it. We will be having an upbeat going away coffee. 3 to 5 next Friday, so I hope you'll all stop by. So, very good. We are adjourned. Thank you.